Hi, this is Koji again, and I want to give you an update here on what's going on in astrology, and I want to start here with the American chart. Those of you who are not familiar with this one, that's the famous one by which was rectified by Dane Rudyard, really one of the best astrologers ever, I would say. Really a great personality who lived in the 20th century, 1895 till 1973, I guess, something like that. He corrected the American chart for something like 5:14 p.m. on July 4, 1776. And I am working with this chart since years, and it gives excellent results. It seems really to be exactly zoomed in on that moment when the American nation was founded. Now, I just want to highlight a few things here. I don't want to go too deep at this point. It's just kind of a starting point here. So the Sag rising, naturally, which I think makes lots of sense, that kind of Jupiter, jovial, expansive, everything has to be bigger and better, and it is even more accentuated because here very close by is what's called the Great Attractor, which is a next level up from the galactic center, the next kind of power point in our local universe where many galaxies are moving towards. So it's a major power point, the Great Attractor, at around 13 degrees. Sagittarius, actually back in 1776 it was probably more something like 12 degrees, but in that vicinity, which adds to that extreme Sagittarian energy the American nation has, is going further, going to the moon, going to other worlds. It's kind of that departure feeling of going really far and to places no one has been before and gone yet. I guess this is really in the American soul, that expansiveness. Also the American Constitution, naturally, which was groundbreaking and still is still today, a real example of the freedom we deserve, the sovereignty and the freedom of expression, of doing whatever we like with our lives. That's at the base of the American nation's philosophy. Now, what is interesting is that the ninth house, which kind of vibrates with the sign Sagittarius up here in this part of this chart, has an interception. The sign Virgo is intercepted, and so is the sign Pisces on the other side. So this is a very interesting predicament, kind of an island within the chart. No house cusps are running through it, and this shows, in my opinion, particularly if you're looking at what kind of planets and points are in here, with Neptune and the black moon, but particularly here very dominant, very high in the chart, alienated, as I say, kind of tucked away. And this, in my opinion, very much speaks of the whole mind programming, which the American nation definitely was privy of, and has been at the forefront of all these mind control experiments. And the whole 20th century history is probably a great example of that, to the point where we are today, where we are just about starting to wake up in big ways. Actually, this week particularly is wild. That's why I decided to do another little video and start here with this chart. The Sun in Cancer and Jupiter and Venus in Cancer here in the 7th house, very beautiful, shows that there's a deep soul quality to the American nation, very caring and optimistic and happy the way they live their lives, also with Mars here, Mars being also more confrontational, particularly in that part of the chart, ready to take on any opponent and be open for competition. There could be many more things being said about this chart. What I want to focus though is the sign Pisces, and you will soon see why. Because that is where the progressed Sun is right these years. Now, progressions, for those of you who are familiar with astrology, this is something we use every day. For the newcomers, I should quickly say it's a fractal principle which we astrologers use. Every day after birth counts for 1 year. In that sense, the American nation is now something like 244 years old, so that would be 244 days after the American nation was founded, and this gives us a Sun of 15 degrees 31 Pisces right now, calculated for April 22nd, that's just next week, new moon. Now this chart moves very slowly, as you can imagine, 1 degree of solar motion in 1 year. So this is a very powerful way of predictive astrology. As I say, all astrologers use that when they do readings for clients. That's kind of where we zoom in to show where we stand in life, what's about to come next in terms of great opportunities and challenges, what abilities there are open to develop, what things to be careful, cautious about. So just let me quickly go back one step. So you see that is where the progressed Sun is right now, 15 degrees around 1531 in Pisces, and we see here Aspolus, and we see here Sedna. Now, I was talking about Sedna quite a bit lately in my last video, particularly as a sign of times, that whole social distancing, being limited in our movement and motion, being isolated and kind of really put in jail in a way, going through something really unprecedented worldwide. And Sedna is a deep space traveler, very much a lonely guy, and has to do with that kind of energy. Has been named after an Inuit goddess of the deep sea. A very dark and difficult story as such, the story of Sedna, which you can look up. And she is the patroness of sea animals and the depths, the mysteries of the deep ocean. Sedna also is related to all kinds of abuse and being punished for things which we do not even fully understand. It's kind of a very karmic energy too. Aspolus, on the other hand, is a centaur planet, and it's also the seer amongst the centaurs. Has to do also with more dark issues. And now, and when we go to the progressions, as you see here, the Sun by progression, Sedna by progression, and Pallas are here close by. That means in that whole months, I would say between somewhat January and June, July, this influence is really strong. Sedna Sun particularly it's kind of what we very closely to our being experience, this energy of being really blocked from even meeting our friends, from doing anything, a total lockdown, very much a Setna signature. Now, Setna, in my research, also shows has to do with mysteries and alien worlds and disclosure thereof, particularly with Pallas being the asteroid of intelligence, of keen understanding, art, science, of finding out the reasons for things, also the asteroid energy of justice with the scale and the sword. And this also is a really big theme these days, getting back to natural law, to the original justice. Then the progressed moon is here in Capricorn now for the second year. And just a quick look back, the moon by progression pretty much came into the sign of Sagittarius around the time President Trump was elected. And that definitely anybody can see the connection here. Trump has the moon in Sagittarius, the sun in Gemini, so this Sagittarian energy is naturally very much in line with the American nation as such. And now the moon, since 2 years in Capricorn, here coming closer to the south node and Pluto. And just note the degree 2254, that's where the moon is right these days by progression. Now we jump to the actual chart of today, earlier today, to be clear. That was when Mercury and Chiron had their conjunction here in early ERIS, which was a nodal moment, kind of a realignment. The 0 point of that cycle was rebooted. Mercury, planet of thinking, of comparing, of understanding the concepts. It's a very human energy, only we humans, that's the specialty we have. If we compare ourselves with animals or plants, we can think, we can compare, and in that sense, that mental ability has been really pushed to see what's truly happening. Just thinking of Out of the Shadow, that powerful documentary which within 5 days alone, it was released on the 10th of April. Those who haven't seen it, please go and watch it. It's quite a piece of art, I would call it. Really well done, eye-opening in many ways. So within these short 5-6 days, there are already 6.7 million views. Again, Out of Shadows. A very strong match to this Mercury being asked to look at all the things which are out of balance and to find healing. Now, within a day or so, tomorrow night, Mercury will be exactly conjunct the black moon, which I wrote about earlier today. You can read about that. I will put the link here below the video. I don't want to spend too much time. Maybe just one thing, that alignment will be exact at 11:22:22. I found that quite wild. I have the chart here for you to see. C11:22:22. That's when tomorrow morning Washington time Mercury will be exactly at the core of darkness, so to say. And as the saying is, at the core of darkness light is born. So that's kind of when you really are facing the darkest of darkness, when you really are hit in the face, then that eureka, a moment of seeing through the deception, seeing through all the lies, and the light is born. And that is definitely happening on collective levels these days. Now let me just go back here for 1 sec. I want to have a quick other look at this chart of Mercury and Chiron earlier today, restarting their cycle. Now what I'm focusing here is Washington, naturally again, Washington DC, and what stands out immediately is the ascendant here and the descendant over on that side, exactly aligned with the transiting lunar nodes. The direction of evolution in that sense, the lunar nodes are the main axis. In that sense, that's the collective assets we're right now building on, and we're working towards the balancing principle in early Cancer. So these early cardinal degrees are foundations, and right now a foundation is laid on Saturnian energies to get to understand the structure of our world. I guess that's what it's really at the deeper levels, and people start understanding what matters. And I just saw a friend shared a link with me. Big protests are starting now in the United States in several cities against that lockdown. That coverage, that footage I saw was from Minnesota, where thousands of patriots are out on the streets and lining up in front of the Capitol. People just can't take it anymore. All these lies, all these pretensions, as we know. I mean, all the hospitals are empty, as we know. Nothing really happened. It was really just to create havoc, to make it appear that Trump did the wrong thing and that he wouldn't be re-elected. That's kind of, I mean, many of you know that story. I don't want to go too deep into that, just mentioning it. Anyway, so this kind of shows that this whole Mercury Chiron energy is very strongly in the public field of perception, so much so that we are understanding it's important to reach out, to share, and also to develop compassion and understanding, to know that everything is there for a reason. That's not an excuse, by no means. Sovereignty is really the most important part. Just yesterday watched this beautiful latest video by Magenta Pixie, and she says there are 3 steps. The first is to know what's going on. The second one is to state our sovereignty and be clear that we do not give our consent to anything that is done to harm us. And the third part in that story of liberation, of getting past beyond all that is to be able to forgive. To understand that this is more like a martial art battle, that we do not get too emotionally involved, even though we are dealing with very dark issues here. It's important to not consent for sure, but also to forgive and let go, and understand that many people, many individuals were involved in this whole scheme without their wanting, so they had to just to survive, so nobody would get harmed. And as soon as the controllers on top are removed, then there will be many people who will repent and who will change sides and be able to finally share what they know. Now, why this chart is so important too is this here at the 4th house cusp in Washington, again the hub of all the big developments on our planets are certainly in Washington right now. Have been for the past 3-4 years, I would say. It's really the leading edge of evolution. ERIS and the Sun. ERIS and the Sun had an exact conjunction just 2 days ago. Now they're still very close. ERIS is the shaker, the one which wants a greater harmony, and to achieve that is ready to go through conflict and through struggle and through outright war if that is necessary to find a better place, a more harmonious place, and that is very prominent too these days. Now, not just that, there is this exact square to Pluto and Jupiter. They're here in this degree, in the 25th degree of Capricorn, squaring the Sun and Aries. So I wrote about that, as I say earlier today, quite a nice little article, so I don't want to repeat myself here. Just saying, remember where the progressed moon is of the American nation at 2254, I guess, these as per next week. So it's maybe 2230 right now, so approaching Pluto, Jupiter here in the next few months as the progress moon moves about 1 degree per month. And also, just want to quickly go back here. You see the progressed lunar south node is here too, and Deucalion, which is another of the newly discovered bodies, a very special one. I don't want to go too deep into that, but Deucalion is about very deep issues to be brought to light and healed. That's another really interesting addition here. So then let's just jump to the chart. Okay, here's another one. Okay, I wanted just to throw this in. You see here we are Mercury Chiron's conjunction earlier today. Now, just a few minutes later, you see this is 1:02 Eastern Daylight Time. That would be 5:02 a.m. Universal Time. Now this other chart I calculated for Greenwich Universal Time, so it's 5:05. 3 minutes later, we had an exact square between Earth and Saturn as seen from the Sun. Here is Saturn, 2541 heliocentrically, and this is Earth. And in this chart heliocentrically, you see Aries is exactly on the ascendant together with the Sun. This is the heliocentric chart just transposed to Greenwich, the global navel, the cosmic navel. Then let's move on. Okay, this is the one for tomorrow, which I want to show you very quickly. I don't want to spend too much time here either, because there's still a few charts more I want to get into. Just here I want to point out the what was it here, which was really interesting. Well, there's always, right, this is the one I want to focus on here. The Sun in the 27th degree of Aries now, about to get into a square with the American Pluto. Just to zoom back here quickly. See, here is Pluto in the American chart, 2732. So the Sun right now is here at 27 Aries, and tomorrow 270205. So through tomorrow, right, the Sun will be, the transiting Sun will be squaring the US Pluto, starting really to stir that whole thing up. Also Pluto and Jupiter are approaching. Pallas is here, Saturn has been here. So I mean, there has been lots of charge up going on there with the American Pluto. Pluto being the power of the people, but also the power of government. We're dealing with, it's kind of that epic battle which is going on. Pluto is a key factor in that, to find a new balance of power. Then okay, this is the other one I wanted to show, the part of fortune here, exactly conjunct Uranus. The part of fortune is a mirror point between Sun, Moon and Ascendant. And let's just move on to this chart now. Right, that's the one I wanted to show you, which is a midpoint chart. That is the exact space-time midpoint between the American nation's birth and that alignment of Mercury and Black Moon tomorrow, late morning, 11:22:22, as I said. Now the midpoint charts, it's kind of the hinge. It's the where the two entities meet, if you want, where the basic energy of the American nation and the energy of this present time, where they meet and match. Now what is interesting is this Jupiter here. So Mercury and the Black Moon, as I said, basically is a very dark moment of realizing something which might shock us, which might give us really food for thought, that for sure, something to digest, to work on. However, with that Jupiter rising and that cardinal cross here, means the first degrees of the cardinal signs here at the power axis and the horizon, and Jupiter here, and Jupiter will go direct in that midpoint energy. The midpoints move half as fast naturally, because the natal chart of the American nation is standing still. The transits move 1 degree a day, then the midpoint always is half that speed. So, but within a few days, around April 18, I translated Jupiter will go direct. That's a big one. That happens only every 2 years or so, that the planet by progression in the midpoints moves direct. And right here in the first degree of Libra, which is here at the ascendant and also conjunct the equatorial point, which is the global ascendant. That means if we see what degree is rising at the equator at that time when we are here in Washington, that is the equatorial point. With that much Jupiter influence, this is heralding some new era to arise. And it's very exciting energy. Jupiter just at the ascendant, expansive, opening, seeing a much bigger field of where one could go, opportunities, possibilities opening up. Now, the other side here is Venus and the dark moon here exactly at the top of the chart, 10th house cusp, the black moon 2922 and Venus 036 Cancer. Now, Venus and the dark moon, that's definitely has to do with the whole really dark theme. I don't want to go too deep into it, but you definitely know what I'm talking about, the whole pedophile, Satanist, and yeah, that whole circle of thoughts and experiences which we have to kind of just accept that they were existing there, and we have to start understanding all the pain which we have now to work on and to heal. Palace 2 here in this whole combo, Palace at 28. So this tells me that yes, something big is coming out into the open, and I mean it's happening already. We see it with that Out of the Shadow movie, and this is just one of many things which simultaneously are going on. It's just the timing is just perfect for that documentary. That's why so many people are now getting really I mean, it's really, there's only red pills around right now. We just have to accept that. We have to understand we cannot delay that any longer. The other thing which stands out is that Saturn, part of fortune, conjunction, and this is where the American, actually on the opposite side here of this degree, at 9 degrees Gemini, is the American Uranus. And you will see where, I will show you this in a minute in another chart. Just for now, there's this Saturn conjunct part of fortune. So Saturn, again, the rule of law, which particularly in Sagittarius, justice, to bring about a clear picture, to remove people who are not in sync with the law, who have been abusing it, stomping one's foot down. That's kind of the energy I see there. So then let's just move on. A few hours later we have Mars entering Capricorn in heliocentric astrology, and I'm using heliocentric astrology quite a bit, as you see, because that's the basic energy we're dealing with. The Sun sending us its rays has all these quantum particles embedded in the photons. Each photon is charged with a certain energy, with a certain frequency, and the alignment of the planets around the Sun are coding the energy we then receive from the Sun. So when there's something going on heliocentrically, it kind of supersedes the whole climate, the whole patterns we have here on Earth, and naturally it's quite a different perspective if you stand on the sun or if you would be here on Earth. Things look quite different. So anyway, that's the moment Mars entered Capricorn, or will enter tomorrow, and that's the geocentric chart for that moment. What stands out again is that here we have the Chiron, the black moon, and Mercury here, all very closely assembled at the 7th house cusp. So another indication that through this time when Mars will be in Capricorn, we will see lots of these things being in the very open, preoccupying our minds, giving lots to talk about, to share, to come to terms with. Okay, and then we have a lunar return. The moon in the American chart is at 27 degrees Aquarius. That will be on Friday then. The moon on its monthly return comes back to that same place. This chart I just thought interesting because it shows the same horizontal axis as the American chart. When that happens in a return chart, it always means this is a particularly important time. And Hygeia is here at the ascendant of this lunar return chart, or if we look at the natal chart, the American, then this would be the 7th house cusp, Hygeia, health, well-being, here together with Venus. So this in itself would imply that we are definitely overcoming that whole corona virus problem. Very soon, very fast, in the next few days, we should see remarkable progress, and my prediction stands still that by mid-May we are almost 100% back to normal, as I was predicting in my last podcast. Then let's just quickly browse through the next few charts here I still have lined up as we are getting closer to new moon. On the 22nd, which I think will be a real breakthrough point. It seems everything is hinting at that this new moon, April 22nd, which again is a 444, rebuilding reality, Earth Day, a powerfully charged day, and new moon at the same time. So anyway, the day before new moon, the black moon changes into a new hexagram, hexagram 21, biting through, which has to do, as the Chinese original text says, hexagram 22 is teeth biting through an obstacle, and it's related to criminal justice, to crack down on energies which are undesirable, which have to be removed from society, have to be locked up. So the black moon moves about 1 degree every 9 days, and each hexagram takes up about 6 degrees of space. 364 degrees divided by 64 is something like 5.5 degrees, a little more. So between 9 degrees 30 and 15 degrees ERIS, as I say, this is hexagram 21 biting through. The black moon will be in here for the next 5 to 6 weeks. Will be very interesting to watch what all will be just occurring, happening, and I'm expecting this is really the window where we will see massive amounts of changes happening, lots of celebrities taken down and indicted or even put into jail right away. So I think it will be an amazing time to live through, very difficult for many people, particularly those who have been listening to all the mainstream media fake news the last few years, who still are to wake up. Interesting detail here, at that moment when the dark moon enters that new energy field, will be a close conjunction with the moon. That makes it as much stronger, gives it a real emotional impact, shows that yes, this is the real thing. We will see some really massive and dark stuff hitting the fan. So you see the sun at that point is at 1.5 degrees Taurus, means entering Taurus around the 19th, we could say. And the moon here, just a day before new moon here, or 2 days, 1.5 days, something like that. Then, on the same day, just a few hours later, the sun also changes hexagrams at 2 degrees Taurus. That's where hexagram 27 starts, which is nourishment. So this is a totally different energy. Nourishment is, as the word says, it's a time when we get lots of new input, something which allows us to grow, to prosper, to expand. That early Taurus energy, very vital and enhancing, uplifting. And Earth on the other side, because that's always the basic polarity. When the sun is in Taurus, the Earth is in Scorpio. Makes sense. If we see the sun out there against the constellation of Taurus, then naturally, if you would stand on the sun looking our direction, you would see Earth against the constellation of Scorpio. Basic polarity in that sense. When the Earth is in, when the sun is in Taurus, we are meant to bring down this Taurian energy and give it roots in the sign Scorpio. Now this hexagram here where the Earth moves in is hexagram 28, which is preponderance of the great. That is a beam, a door beam with way too much weight on it, which bends through. Also, the Chinese are linking this energy with a flooded river, an immense amount of excuse me, I'm not used to talk so much. An immense amount of energy is coming through all at once. So when that energy shifts, what I wanted to show you here again for Washington DC, that moment again, which is kind of a nodal moment, the 0 point when some new energy comes in. The American Pluto here, you remember 2732, exactly at the 7th house cusp. And again, here we have Pluto, Jupiter, Pallas, Saturn, all in that vicinity. Chariklo here too. So the long and short, it seems we're kind of zooming in here into a window of, it's kind of from a larger picture we are getting to a smaller picture, to a more narrow time frame. Now energies are building up. Okay, now here we have now the new moon, and that is at 3 degrees 24 Taurus, just a few degrees away from Uranus, actually exactly 3 degrees here, and this, it's a bit hard to see because there's so much going on here. Sun and moon are here 324, and Uranus is here at 624. Okay, so from new moon on, it takes 3 days, pretty much exactly 3 days, for the sun to catch up and be exactly dead on conjunct Uranus. That will be then the 25th. So anyway, the 22nd seems to be a starting point. There's many other indications here. Just want to point out 2 things. Midheaven in Washington for this new moon is 20 degrees 11 Virgo. That is where the American nation's black moon is, kind of the dark shadow point, the blind spot, or whatever you call it, where we can't see, particularly as Neptune is there too. Just want to quickly go back and show you that is where the American black moon is, together with Neptune, that kind of energy, as I mentioned, which shows that this nation has been a lab rat, in that sense, to be abused with all kinds of dark technologies and whatever. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, MK Ultra and all these experiments. Yes, just if you haven't seen it yet, again, I'm repeating myself. Out of Shadows taps into all that quite a bit. So let's just go back here to that new moon, 20 degrees Virgo, midheaven, 4 degrees Sagittarius rising, and I just want to say this is where President Trump's black moon is. So the American black moon up here, President Trump's black moon. So I mean, these are just 2 fractals out of a bigger picture, which I'm telling you here about the black moon, but it is very indicative, and I would be very surprised if nothing really big is starting to happen on really pretty much on the 22nd. There's another energy I just want to mention quickly, which is Arrokoth. I have written about it. It's a newly found little orbiter far past Pluto, but it's as small as it is, maybe whatever, 250 kilometers in diameter or so. It is the farthest away celestial body we have very good footage of, because the New Horizons space probe, who was sent out to Pluto, it was launched in 2006 and finally after 9 years traveling reached Pluto in 2015 and brought back all this amazing footage of planet Pluto and its moon Charon. And about a year before New Horizons had reached its destination, Arrokoth made itself visible, showed up, was discovered, or however you want to put it. And the scientists said, oh wow, that's just the exact, pretty much same path as the space probe was on. So after it had mapped out Pluto and done its job there, pretty much fulfilled its mission, New Horizons could be redirected, and on January 1st, 2019 had its close flyby with that small trans-Neptunian object. Arrokoth, meanwhile, has been named after a North American tribe's word, a name which Arrokoth means a man standing under the open sky. So as little as this body is, it seems to have an enormous importance in our present time, particularly as it has been seen so close up. It's been named just as late as November of last year. It's a very new addition, and it seems it has to do with that integrative understanding of standing under the open sky and seeing it all coming together, see the puzzle, all the many puzzle pieces just all of a sudden fitting in with each other. The black moon makes an exact trine to the American black moon. Arrokoth actually will station on the 19th of April. If we go a few charts back, here you see, let's go back here to the lunar return, that's 2 days earlier of the American chart, and there you see Arrokoth is still moving direct. So on the 19th, just 2 days later, Arrokoth comes to its yearly turning point. All the outer planets go through that rhythm of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's because of the Earth's motion. When the Earth moves against their motion, then it seems the planet is coming to a halt and moves backwards through the sky. That explains that whole waving motion of all the outer planets, and also the inner ones at times. Even Mercury and Venus and Mars go through those cycles. So anyway, Arrokoth comes to its yearly maximum on the 19th of April at 1925 Capricorn. As I said, will be in an exact trine to the American black moon, kind of helping to integrate all that darkness which we are confronted with collectively right now, to help us to see it from a more spiritual place, to see that it's really not so much a matter of good and bad. I mean, sure, we can look at it through those from that perspective, but I guess we have to really to move one level higher. Existence allowed all that to happen for a certain reason, to wake us up, to bring evolution. The greater the polarity, the faster the evolution moves ahead. So going through all these extremes which we have been pushed through, it's important to just have the ability to stand back and take it all in and see it and let it go. As I say, I do not consent, but I do forgive. So yes, this is again the new moon, and then just one more chart I want to show you here before we end. That is again the, come on. Here we go. That is again the midpoint chart between that new moon of April 22nd and the American nation's birth chart. And look what we have here. Saturn exactly conjunct the ascendant, opposing the sun. And you might remember I told you earlier, the American nation's Uranus is at 8:55 Gemini. Just let me quickly go back and show you. 8:55 Gemini. So this is strong stuff. This is really quite as intense and difficult as it can get. This is the when really rubber hits the road, I would say. Saturn, Uranus, the old and the new, it's really where the two phases meet. Moon and Jupiter in midheaven again, as we had another Jupiter chart, you remember, with Jupiter rising. Now this time Jupiter and the Moon are here up high, indicating that this really, in the bigger picture, is a time to celebrate. Great breakthroughs are made. It will be biblical, monumental. That's another of Jupiter's adjectives, if you want. It's what Q told us. Will be biblical. And, well, fasten your seatbelts, get ready. Around new moon we will see big action. Well, thanks for joining in, listening, and wishing you a wonderful week. Enjoy your time, that free time you're given. Do the best you can with it. Be creative. Do all the things you always wanted and never could. Read a good book, whatever. You will know what to do with your time. And again, thanks for joining in.